How you guys doing today? It's Anthony Gangi. Welcome to another episode of Tear Talk. Guys, great discussion today. Are female sex offenders different? We're going to talk about the Christina Formella case. Guys, I have recently been doing a lot of searching on female sex offenders because there is a lot going on in the news. Every time I see something on true crime, they got a sex offender that's female in the news. Some are teachers, some are nurses. Usually some of them serve in some type of nurturing function or caregiving function. I think it's going to be a great discussion. I'm going to focus mostly on, or we're going to focus mostly on the Christina Formella case, but we're going to touch on things that will apply outside this case as well. And my guest today is going to be Denise Schonwald, and we definitely have a lot of information we're going to send your way today. So hopefully you guys enjoy what's going to come our way, but let me get you Denise. Denise, what's going on?
Hi, how are you?
Good. Hey, Denise, you mind introducing yourself, please?
Hi, everybody. I'm Denise Schonwald. I'm a nationally licensed mental health counselor and former critical care nurse.
Yes, and we love having you on, Denise.
Thank you.
So, Denise, there's a lot here. I mean, I know you're a mental health counselor. I was blown away by this, to be honest with you, and for very superficial reasons, I'll admit. When I saw a picture of the girl, I have the girl right here. Her name is Christina Formella. I'm not going to lie. When I found out she was caught in a sex offense, and now she technically is a predator, my mind was blown away. But again, for very superficial reasons, I'm not going to lie, because of how she looked. And this is her when she got booked in the county jail. But I'll be honest with you, man, as I'm doing my research, there's a lot of female sex offenders.
Yes, and it's difficult because a lot of times female sex offenders will take on the role of, as you said before, very nurturing. Nurses, teachers, things like that are deceiving because we automatically assume that there's somebody that's good and wholesome. But unfortunately, and most of them are, but unfortunately, sex offenders will find opportunity, and that in these professions, it's an easy one.
Yeah, and we do have a lot to cover here because female sex offenders, sadly, are seen differently than male sex offenders, and they shouldn't be. And we're going to talk about that difference in gender because it's funny. I'll show somebody a picture of this female sex offender, and it would be, in this case here, it was a boy that was 14 years old, or started when he was 14 years old, and people are like, lucky boy. Now, if this was a male sex offender and they did it to a 14-year-old girl, there would be a big difference in that response. But what I would like to do first is there's a video on YouTube that kind of focuses on the body cam when they make the arrest and her reaction. It's pretty interesting, and it gives a bit of some details behind what happened, but we're going to go ahead and break that down as well. And then we're going to go right into discussion. But I would like to show you guys the video. Guys, bear with me. It's a 10-minute video. I'm going to use it as kind of a fair use act. But I want to give credit where credit is due. So this video is coming from Crime Inspector. So he does have a YouTube channel, has about 111,000 followers. And it's Crime Inspector, all one word, but capital C, capital I. And as I said, I think he did a very good video, but I'm really focused on the body-worn camera part of it. But either way, let me go ahead and share it. I'm going to mute both our mics for a second, if that's okay, Denise.
Yes.
All right.
You don't have anything on you? You can just grab whatever you need.
Whatever I need.
Yeah, whatever you need, like your phone, your purse, your card, grab it.
Is she going somewhere? Or?
Yeah, we're going to explain everything to you guys.
This is the moment when high school teacher Christina Formella was taken into custody following allegations that she sexually assaulted a student in a classroom. But how did it all begin? Let's uncover the story from the very start. Records show that Christina Formella has been licensed as a teacher since 2017, when she was 23 years old and shortly after graduating from college. She received a teaching license, specializing in language arts, and as a learning behavior specialist. With these qualifications, she secured employment at Downers Grove South High School in 2021, which would later become the site of serious allegations. At the school, Christina served not only as a teacher, but also volunteered as the football coach. She had initially met the boy during football practice before beginning to provide one-on-one tutoring sessions by December 2023. According to court documents, the teen stated that he and the defendant had developed what he described as mutual romantic feelings. The teen reported that one morning, in December 2023, before school hours, he met with the defendant in her classroom. He testified that she closed the door, after which they allegedly started a sexual encounter. Investigators determined that during this time, the boy, who was underage, had allegedly been assaulted by Christina in one of the school classrooms. The situation came to light on Saturday, March 15, 2025, when the mother of a student at the school purchased a new iPhone for her son. During the setup process, which required signing into an iCloud account, she logged into her son's account and discovered messages from Christina that were inappropriate in nature. These messages suggested Christina believed she was in a relationship with the boy. Following this discovery, both mother and son went to a local police station and turned over the evidence. When detectives examined the phone, they found additional evidence that confirmed the mother's suspicions, leading to Formella's arrest. On Sunday, March 16, 2025, Downers Grove Police conducted a traffic stop and arrested Christina Formella.
Hey, how you doing?
Hi.
Officer Guzman with Downers Grove. Do you have your license on you?
Can I?
Yeah, I'm gonna explain. I'm sure you're confused. I'll explain everything to you. You're Christina?
Yes.
Okay, Christina, do me a favor. Can you step out of the car for me? I know you're confused. I'll explain everything to you. You don't have anything on you? You can just grab whatever you need.
Whatever I need.
Yeah, whatever you need. Like your phone, your purse, go ahead and grab it.
Is she going somewhere? Or?
Yeah, we're gonna explain everything to you guys.
In the body cam footage, Formella seems confused when police ask her to exit her vehicle.
Go ahead and grab it out. We're not going anywhere right now. Of course, yeah.
I don't understand what's going on here.
I get it, yeah. You can go grab your things.
Can he come with me?
Yes. You stay there right for right now, sir. Just stay there, but yes, you can. But come on back here.
Should I shut the car off?
Oh, yeah. Go ahead. Goes off. Okay. Let's right back over here. So, we do have an investigation going on. We have to talk to you about it at the police department, okay? So we're going to explain everything to you there. It's not my investigation. I don't know the full details. We do have to bring you there, though, okay? So I do have to put you in handcuffs and bring you to the police department. Just a Downers Grove.
Handcuffs?
Yes, unfortunately, yes.
I'm like willing to go with you.
I get it, yeah. Unfortunately, we have to do it that way. So do me a favor. We just take this off.
Can I ask you what?
Of course, yeah. It's not, like I said, it's not my investigation. Obviously, we're here for a reason. So go ahead and turn around for me. So right now you're being detained, and there is a detective that needs to talk to you at the police department. So we'll let your husband know. He can just come to the police department as well if he wants to wait for you there.
I'm like.
I get it. You have a lot of questions.
So scared.
Yeah, everything's okay. We just need to talk to you at the police department. That's all. Nothing else on your pocket right now? Anything else?
Just my phone.
Just your phone?
Here.
Okay. Okay. All right, we're going to sit in the back of this car. On the other side. Once you get to the police department, you'll talk to the detective and he'll explain everything to you.
But you can't even give me like an idea
At the moment,
what this is about.
Other than that, it's an investigation. That's all I can really tell you right now. I'm sorry. I wish I could tell you more.
They then arrest her and place her in the back of a police vehicle where she asks questions about her detention.
Am I in trouble? Like I'm so lost right now.
I'm sure you are. Like I said, I can't answer any questions right now. I'll just tell you that right now you're being detained for an investigation and we're bringing you to the police department. And once you get there, they're going to fill you in on everything.
Formella can be heard sobbing in the back seat of a police vehicle and asking for her husband, her childhood sweetheart, whom she married last year, per reports.
We're just going to Downers Grove, so 10 minutes away.
No, I know, but I really would prefer that my husband's with me.
Of course.
When detectives confronted Formella about notes she had written in her phone, prosecutors said she claimed they were an outlet for her anxiety, which was brought on by the teenage boy. Now, while questioning Formella, The state attorney said Formella denied having sex with the teen, but in the same breath admitted her relationship with him was wrong. But she couldn't break it off because she cared too much about him. Detectives said Christina Formella had referred to the boy as her stalker and that her husband knew about this. But when they asked her husband about him, he only knew about the boy as a soccer player.
I'm just gonna put your seatbelt on, right? Unless are you able to reach it down there? Sure you don't want a tissue or something?
I'm feeling I'm gonna throw up.
A bag?
Yes, please.
All right. Shauna, can you grab a bag out of there? Hey, can you get like a bag just in case she gets nauseous? Yeah. I don't know. Do we have any of those MSS bags like laying around the box? I figure it's something better than nothing. Or here, if you stay with her, I'll go grab it.
Oh my god. What the fuck?
Just kind of put it on the floor here, all right?
Okay.
A few paper towels on the floor here if you need it, all right?
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah. Yep.
Formella has been charged with 1 count of aggravated criminal sexual abuse, 1 count of criminal sexual assault, and 1 count of aggravated criminal sexual abuse. At her initial court appearance on Monday, March 17, the judge denied the prosecution's request to keep Christina detained, and she was released on bail. The conditions of her release include no contact with anyone under the age of 18, and she is prohibited from returning to the school. However, she would not have been able to return to the school anyway, as she has been placed on paid administrative leave during the ongoing investigation.
All right, so I'll unmute you. There's some updates there. That video is a little bit older, but it really showed the body cam footage I really wanted us to focus on. And today, remember, guys, we do things objectively. So we're going to ask some questions also in the show and answer some questions that we may not all agree with, but I am going to ask them because they could come from anyone who chooses to defend her, including I was watching an episode today from someone's YouTube channel. I think it was Angelette Levy. I forgot, but I think it was her. And she had a criminal defense attorney on, and they said this girl could be suffering from some type of mental illness. So you know that they may play that route. But, of course, there's going to be arguments against that. And I have some good back and forth that I think we're going to be able to have today. But what I would like to do first is I want to give the updates. I want to read a little bit more about the case and go into the dialogue. But before we do that, is that the first time you saw that body cam footage, Denise?
Yes, first time.
Was it interesting?
Yeah, it was. It's very sad to me because she's clearly, there's a lot of mental health issues going on with her to the point where, she was in complete denial at first. And then toward the end, it looks like she went into a full-blown panic attack after she finally realized the reality of the situation.
Yeah, and there's some interesting thoughts I have later on that I didn't get a chance to text you with. That I think you're going to find interesting, because actually when I was driving home, I saw the video, or heard the video. Let's just do it that way. I didn't watch the video while I was driving. I was listening to the video. And then when I went to my normal Chick-fil-A stop, I watched the rest of it and I was like, oh, there's an interesting angle here. So I wanted to kind of put some thoughts in for today's show to cover that angle as well. But we'll kind of move forward as we go. There's going to be a few angles here. So real quick, the video you saw, March 22nd, 2025, body camera footage shows Christina Formella being pulled from her car while driving with her husband, Michael. And that's her, Christine Formella. You guys know that. There's her when she finally got arrested. Just to let you know, Michael, the husband, and we'll get to it, he actually has some money. He's the heir to some like type of Italian food restaurant or something like that. So there's money involved in here, by the way. The husband comes from good means. So her immediate defense when she found out what she was being accused of was that she was innocent. First, as you mentioned, she blamed it on the kid for doing the stalking. But then she starts talking about it was her appearance. Everybody comes after me because I'm good looking. And I want to show one more thing real quick, and we'll get back to that. You guys may be familiar with this young lady here. Let me just fast forward my script real quick. I want to read you one more thing. This young lady right here, where is she? Bear with me. What'd I do with her stuff? Hold on, maybe it's over here. Bear with me. So real quick, this girl here, and there's a picture of her when she got locked up, and here's another picture of her. A lot of you guys may be familiar with her. That's Deborah. Where is she? Deborah LaFave. And so basically, she is for a moment America at the time. This was in 2006. She was the most famous sex offender, young, blonde, and in the words of her lawyer, too pretty for prison. When the prosecution in Florida, and again, this is going back to 2006, but it's an older article this week, dropped charges against Deborah LaFave, a former teacher who admitted having sex with a boy who was then 14 years old. They reignited a debate about whether society is willing to tolerate sexual misconduct if the aggressor is female, as in LaFave's case, attractive. LaFave, again, this is going back to 2006, is the most recent in a series of high-octane cases of sexual abuse involving female teachers and their pupils, and the leniency of her treatment in America's legal system has provoked accusations of double standards, not least from her ex-husband, Owen LaFave, who is producing a documentary film on such relationships. So basically, there was a part here where, in LaFave's case, charges were dismissed because the victim's mother did not want to put her son through the trial, that given America's current fascination with sexual abuse was bound to become a staple of tabloid television. She goes, I'm his mom, and I couldn't protect him when it came time to what she did to him. I can protect him now, she told the Tampa television station. She said she was relieved her son would be spared from testifying. Every word that came out of his mouth, every detail that was presented would have been terrible for him. LaFave was a former reading teacher, had already been sentenced by another Florida court for 3 years house arrest, followed by 7 years probation after she admitted having sex with the boy in a school classroom, her home, and the back of a car with the boy's teenage cousin in the driving seat. But this week's decision means she'll be spared jail, an outrage for some who say the courts failed to acknowledge the gravity of child abuse when a woman's to blame. And it goes, any adult who sexually abuses a child deserves a punishment that fits the crime. It should make no difference whether the offender is a scraggly bearded boogeyman or a leggy blonde in flawless makeup. And that comes from the local paper. There was a part in this where actually the lawyer had said that she is too pretty to go to prison. And that was actually something that they said in a way to kind of promote a defense. But what wind up happening is the truth behind that story is the mother didn't want the son to testify. Again, now let's go back. I thought that was interesting, but let's go back to the current case with who we're at now, Christina. So we got March 22nd, she gets pulled over. Then she tries to blame the boy for stalking her. Then eventually it's about her appearance. Everybody comes after me because I'm good looking. Eventually the charges was 55 felonies, and she's facing up to 60 years in prison as of right now. This wasn't a moment of poor judgment. It was systematic predation, hiding behind respectability. And she had the perfect facade. Christina seemed to embody everything parents want in a teacher. Former star athlete, college scholarship recipient, passionate about special needs education, met her future husband, Michael, in college, planned their dream Italian wedding. In 2020, she achieved her dream job at Downer Grove South High School as special education teacher and soccer coach. The facade was deliberate. She spent years building a reputation as someone who protected vulnerable children, only to become their predator. Now, Denise, real quick, how do predators use their professional reputation and community standing as part of their grooming strategy, not just with victims, but with parents and colleagues who might notice warning signs?
Sure. We've seen this before. We've seen this with clergy. We've seen this with teachers. We've seen this with professionals, Boy Scout leaders, Girl Scout leaders, where we think just because of the profession that they pick, that they must be good people. But in this case, she took an opportunity to sort of, she's quite polished, by the way, with how she maneuvered and how she finagles and how she's quick to not take any responsibility. And to me, this is a really sad and unfortunate case.
Yeah, and like, so even like, let's say on the male side, you may get a priest or teachers as well, female teachers. I mean, these are positions that are connected to positions of authority, but positions that you trust. Yes. I'm going to give a teacher my child. I don't know if I give it to the person, but I give it to the position. If I go to a school and it's my first day dropping the kid off to school, I don't really know who these teachers are, but I know that they're teachers. So the title is such a trustworthy title that we wind up handing our children the things that we trust, that we supposed to protect the most, to the title, not the person. That's a pretty powerful thing for a title. Would you agree?
I agree. And not only that, but the school probably has vetted her and she's probably been fingerprinted. So she did a lot to make sure that she could get in the position that she did by doing all the, quote, right things.
And you made a very good point, Denise, because having said that, that's another thing we trust. We would trust that people that get in those titles where there is a blind trust, they are vetted. I mean, I would think so. I mean, I could tell you right now, I know my daughter goes to school, but I don't know all the teachers in that building. I mean, should I? I don't know. I mean, I'm trusting that the system has put measures in place where that shouldn't be a worry for me.
Correct. Right? And in that case, it looks like that they did do she didn't have any sort of prior record as far as we know. So it looks like they did do their due diligence, but she sort of worked this very, very diligently and got herself in a position where she could do what she ended up doing.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, real quick, I just want to add something, Denise. I would love your thoughts on this. If there was a chance, now we're going to tell you how this relationship got exposed, and it wasn't because the child admitted it. It was because the mother found out through Texas, and we'll get to that. So we didn't have like a child saying that, hey, I was assaulted multiple times, and the parents not wanting to believe it because, well, there's no way a teacher would do that. But I want to kind of stay with that route for a second, because that's not what happened here. But with that said, just kind of going back to the title route, sometimes these titles are chosen by sexual predators because, one, it makes you second guess the allegation. Like, there's no way a teacher would do this to a child. There's no way a stepdad would do this to a child. No way a father would do. No way an uncle. It's the title holds a lot of weight, but then there's another thing to it too. There's no way I would allow for that to happen. So there's a level of denial that also has us refuse to believe it. Because there's no way, if the child's correct and they're being sexually assaulted by the teacher, I'm the one that brings the kid to school. So that title is a pretty sophisticated game that is utilized by a lot of predators, because the title comes with a trust that is automatic.
Yes. Yeah.
And out of curiosity, Denise, I mean, does that title present so many conflicts in regards to if someone does tell us this is happening, is there sometimes a conflict with us wanting to believe it?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when we've placed our trust in these people. I mean, there's some shock, and it's just unbelievable. And as far as the child is concerned, kids that age, they don't have what they call executive functioning yet. So, the kids, certainly of adolescence and probably very, thinking a lot about sex and probably is very confused by the whole triangle that he got himself into.
Right. And now I want to talk a little bit about male and female sex offender patterns. And guys, we have a lot to discuss here, so bear with me. But we're going to bring it kind of as Christina is our focal point, but really is Christina is a part of yes, what we want to talk about because it's a current event, but we really want to bring this into a bigger discussion, which what we're doing here. So for male offenders, I have that male offenders are often driven by power, dominance, and control. Let me power, dominance, and control, may use threats or intimidation, and they may have victims across wider age ranges. Now, mind you, guys, nothing's 100%, but hear me out on this thought, is that I think there's a level of dominance. It's not so much about sexual gratification, but rather dominance and control, and it's a matter of who they can control. That's why some may go after younger individuals like babies or toddlers, adolescents to some extent. And then, they for male offenders, they may have a wider age range. But I thought for female offenders, and nothing's 100%, but they typically frame abuse as emotional connection or love. Mm-hmm. So they may target adolescents who can participate in pseudo relationships using nurturing roles as a cover. Now, if you look at Christina's pattern, and this is why I thought this, and again, nothing's 100%, but I think there is some relevance to this. She was fixated on a 15-year-old student after his sports injury ended his soccer career. All right, so at the very beginning, what happened was that she was fixated on him. She was a coach for a soccer team, and then eventually what happens, he gets hurt, and then she winds up tutoring him, and then eventually the phone numbers get exchanged because he's playing a game of pool on the cell phone that's like a multiplayer game, and she's like, oh, I'd like to play that game too, and maybe we could play it together. And in order for that game to be played together, they had to have their contacts exchanged. And then she, as I said, she winds up offering tutoring as manipulation disguised as kindness, and then engineered private access through gaming app. So the pretext to exchange phone numbers, that was the pretext. And then for discussion, first question I have for you, Denise, on this one is, why do male and female sex offenders seem to operate so differently, with men often driven by power and control and women more often framing their behavior as emotional connection or love?
Yeah. For the men, it's a lot of dominance. And again, you're right, it's actually power and control. The women are a little bit more polished. So, they come in a little bit more insidiously with romance and love and connection. And, she sort of got her way. She found her way when he got injured. And then she tried to connect with him with, let's play a game together, which, some of us would find that very odd, but, he just took it. Maybe she's being nice and she's trying to connect with him. He didn't really see it. And yet she had all her motives sort of ready to, do whatever happened after that.
And I want to mention something, guys, and we're going to probably explore it later. Remember, she's a teacher. She's in a position of power. So for some people that want to look at it as, well, maybe he played her. He's 14, 15 years old. It's unfathomable. She's in a position of power. She's in a position of authority. So whatever that other argument is should not work, because at any time she was given the authority or power to do the right thing.
Yes.
I want to make that clear. Okay.
Cool. I would also add to that professionalism. She had the responsibility of having some professionalism, regardless of how he may have taken anything that she did or said or whatever. She's the professional.
Right. And then I wanted to have one more question for this, Denise. I wanted to ask, so when we talk about power and control, because when you watch these videos with this girl, Christina, I actually think, and we're going to get to it again later, that there was a relationship here. Again, I'm not saying it's the right thing, but looking at it from how they may see it, I think she did have a relationship with him, or she thought she had a relationship with him. And when she's crying in the car, she could either be crying for two reasons. One reason, well, a couple of reasons, actually. One reason, let's go with the superficial. Someone's going to find out. She could be shamed. She could be embarrassed because she knew, this was wrong. And this is maybe the first time where she loses control, because she has no idea how, at this point, she's been found out, and later on, it's not the boy that told on her. It's the mother who made the connection, and then eventually the boy does tell the truth. But originally it's the mother who pushed for it. The mother didn't find the text messages when she was changing his phone, then this probably would have never came out. But another reason she could be crying could be simple: the consequences. Oh shoot, what's going to happen now? You know, I'm going to get arrested and blah blah. Or another reason she'd be crying, and we'll get to this later on, is this could be the first real sign that the relationship is over between her and the boy. And I want to explore that, because I think there could be some, again, not forgiving, not giving her excuse, but I would like to touch on, as we get later on, a mental health concern for her. I don't know if there's something in her past that made her vulnerable to just attention and attachment, no matter who it was. But guys, not an excuse. But I do like to bring these up, because then we could be prepared when it comes our way to have a defense against it. But I'll get to that later. But I think that was important. How do these differences in motivation influence who they target, the tactic they use to manipulate, and how quickly victims recognize the abuse?
One of the things we've talked about before, when the motivation goes to something criminal or a crime, as a therapist, we're looking for a personality disorder. And in this case with Christina, we're looking for something called histrionic personality disorder. This is something that it develops in childhood, but diagnosed around 18. It's when emotions are very shallow. They tend to be very sexual. They tend to find these deep connections. And yet, if she was so in love with this boy, so she says, why did she go ahead and get married in Italy? I mean, the whole thing really doesn't make a lot of sense.
Well, it makes sense when you bring out that illness, because all of it would be to create an image.
Correct.
Right? You know, the image of the perfect marriage. I mean, they had money. They were in Italy. I mean, as we go through the story later, she's texting him on the wedding day, because they got married in Italy. Supposedly the honeymoon was in Paris or France. I mean, they wind up pulling down their social media. But, you know, I think it does. When you mentioned that, I mean, you texted it to me, it does make a lot of sense in that context where it is very surface. But would histrionic also fall into play? Because I do see it, but I could be wrong. Some level of narcissism too?
Yeah, absolutely. But the histrionic, what that has over the just regular narcissism is that sexual component. They use their sexuality to sort of lure in for things that they want. And, you know, she was very jealous when he found somebody else his age. Right. You know, she wants the attraction. She wants all the attention. And no matter how much she gets, it's not going to be enough.
Yeah. What's very interesting about her is not just the text messages. She put, like, in the on your phone, you have like this little notes section that I use for my shows. She put like entries in there that actually they say are one of the most revealing things to read when it comes to female sexual predators.
Yes.
It was very interesting. And she, even in one of the notes, she writes to herself that she's second choice to no one. So it looks like these are texts that are meant for him, or thoughts that she may say to him, but she tries to BS her way out of it by saying that was for her man, Mike, which obviously it wasn't for Mike. And we all know that now. Let me get to the next part. I think when it comes to here too, by the way, if I could just add one more thought for that, about the difference in motivation, influence, by target. I think we covered it, but like, as I said, for the males, for power and control, I think as long as they see someone vulnerable that they could take advantage of, they pounce on them. And maybe because they may have the physical ability to do that. I think for women, it may be more of an emotional thing where they get into the person's head and it becomes a bit more confusing for the victim. And then that's how they maintain control through the even though male predators can do it as well, if I had to say, one side using it more than the other, that's why I think the girls are able to get those adolescent boys. Because I'll guarantee you, if I was, again, he's still young, you got to go by the age, but it will be hard to say that she physically raped him.
Yes.
He's a 14, 15-year-old boy. She's and he could probably throw her around, but it's not about the physical in this case. It's about how she was able to get into his head, correct?
Yeah, how she seduced him. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and then obviously, if you had a male sex offender with a female victim, we automatically would paint the picture that he physically was able to overpower her. And it's funny because you see that in corrections too, because if you have a male officer who sexually abuses a female inmate, they're going to go everything, 5 years. They're going to hit that person up with the charges. But when you see it as a female officer with the male inmate, people are hard to see that female officer was able to hold that male inmate down and rape him, because they figure the rape is about holding someone down. But sometimes resistance is sometimes a good manipulator knocks down the wall so people don't even think that they can resist.
Yes, absolutely. And that's part of the enticement, the hunt, what they have to do to get to what they ultimately want. That also is very enticing for them.
Yeah, right. Because it is a bit of it's power for them, right?
Yeah, it is power. It's just a little bit more crafty. They're very polished with what they do.
So I do have some grooming techniques that may differ a little bit. Let me get that up here. So she had the daily texts and FaceTime calls that escalated to explicit sexual conversation. So I believe once they got into the gaming app, it only took about maybe a month or less than a month for it to become sexual. And they make it look like, from what I hear, that she started the sexual text. Now, granted, even if she reciprocated, it still doesn't matter. She's in a professional role. But it looks like she started the sexual text, then the FaceTime. So that's what kind of starts her level of control. And then the first assault occurred months later. I think it was like in December of 2023, and it was in her special ed classroom, the very space where vulnerable children were supposed to feel safe. So basically you could see him coming in a bit early before class, and then her, she secures the door. And then the sexual interaction was pretty much, he grabbed her butt, then she grabbed his private parts. Then he pulled down her stockings. She pulled down her pants, and I believe it's noted that they had sex standing up. That was the first interaction. Now, mind you, there's been many more. Now, when you saw the video prior, that video was it's a couple of months old. Recent news is that they may have had over 45 encounters inside the school, and then a few more also at the home. That's why there's 55 charges. So they had way more than just one sexual encounter. So the security footage, as I mentioned, showed deliberate early morning meetings with locked doors. So they got approximately 50 encounters, mostly on school grounds. So then what happens here is eventually in 2024, it's a big year for her. In June, she's going to get married. June 22nd, I think she gets married. By the way, a recent video that's about a day or two old, they're in the process of selling their house in Illinois. I think it's like going for like $569,000. So I'm assuming they're paying for lawyers right now. So she gets married around June 22nd. So the victim starts to show interest in a girl his own age. So now this is when you start to see her mask slip. She goes in a text, "You're so effing predictable and disgusting. Shocker that you cheated on me with her." So mind you, this is a 28-year-old woman. Now she's 30, but this is a 28-year-old woman talking to a 15-year-old boy. I think he's about 15 at this time. As if it's like a high school girlfriend thing. Like you're cheating on me. Like I mean, this is a 28-year-old woman talking to a 15-year-old boy. So Denise, when a teacher convinces herself that she actually is in a relationship with a student, what does that do to the kid's sense of reality, and how does that affect their healing down the road? Because I am guaranteeing right now that part of this game that she had with the boy is that we are in a relationship, and that I do expect you, even though I'm getting married, all this other stuff, I don't expect you to be doing anything with any other girls because I'm not second to no one.
Yes. Yes. And she, at this point, she's completely delusional and she's pulling him in. And I work with adult people that don't realize sometimes that they're being manipulated. And, so he really has no idea what's going on. And she's really, at this point, she's just really becoming unhinged.
Well, that's actually a good point that you just said, Denise. That actually goes right into the next question. How does emotional grooming make it harder for victims to realize they're being abused? I think one thing about emotional grooming, because guys, I have a book on manipulation, a little selfish plug here. But I think a thing about grooming, I think part of it is confusion, and something else that people don't talk about, a level of obligation, I think plays off in manipulation and grooming, because it's like, I'm doing these things for you. And eventually I think people start to use that to their own advantage. Like, I've been here for you. I've done this and all this other stuff. And now you're going to treat me dirty. And it tries to push guilt and blame for the person trying to do the right thing.
Yeah, you see that with Stockholm syndrome, where all of a sudden the person that's being abducted, or the victim, all of a sudden starts to sympathize and think that they've done something wrong because that's how they're made to feel. That's just how powerful manipulation can be.
And it's very confusing. What about especially for a 15-year-old boy, a 14-year-old boy?
Exactly. And this is his teacher.
Yeah, because I think the funny thing is when you're 28 years old, I mean, to some extent, you have a better understanding of feelings and emotions, and a 14-year-old, 15-year-old kid may not. So I think there's a strength in that, knowing that I know what emotions to pull on because I know what they're about. This 14-year-old kid still trying to discover what these emotions are about. Yes.
And she's also sort of pulling him in for sexual reasons. So she's got him sort of hooked in on that too.
Well, that's another thing. Because that, what's funny, and I've seen this. There were people. I think it was Ann Salter that mentioned this to me. That there are people that are actually victims, but they enjoy it, and they don't. And something with the enjoyment, they feel guilty for it, and they don't want to bring it to light because somewhere in the process of them being manipulated and them being taken advantage of, in this case here, the 14, 15-year-old boy, there's a process that he's enjoying it, and she could play into that because that's in the text. They talk about how good these events are, the sexual encounters. So there's a point where you want to tell the kid he's doing something wrong, but then the kid's also like, well, why am I enjoying it so much?
Yeah, and he's complicit. I mean, so they're meeting in all these places and they're having all this activity, and so he started going along with it. So I mean, you can see how it all sort of it gets so complicated.
Yeah, because you figure, for a child, when they start to enjoy something and someone's telling them what they're doing is wrong, they may just say, well, maybe I better not say anything then, because I don't want people to think that, me enjoying it, what does that say about me?
Yeah, or maybe they are in love. Who knows?
Yeah, that's another thing. You know what the funny thing is maybe a kid at that young age, love is more about sex. So she's able to kind of say that, but you love me, and why? Because we're having sex and we're doing these things, when we know love is a lot more deep than just sex.
Yes.
I'm sure a kid at 14, 15 years old probably has a superficial understanding of what love really is, right?
Yeah. He doesn't even really have what, as I said before, executive functioning. He's not even thinking all this through.
Yeah, but they do know love's a powerful word. So it does make sense for the predator to exploit that word, but define it superficially.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. And he doesn't know any better. He's a 14, 15-year-old kid, and, he's sort of following her lead. And she's quite masterful with knowing what she's doing.
Yes. And guys, she is a predator.
She really is.
See that. So what fantasy? Okay. So I want to talk about the wedding day now. Delusion is evidence. Okay. So you mentioned delusion. So we're going to cross into that now. So Christina's Italian wedding to Michael should have been the happiest day of her life. Instead, she locked herself in a bathroom crying about the teenager while her new husband and guests waited. writing manifestation entries, because mind you, this wasn't about, she's writing notes in her electronic note thing, I believe on the iPad, on the iPhone. The teen is going to reach out to me soon and try to fix things between us. I want to mention something. Well, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. Just remember, if you don't mind, because when I noticed that some of these, when I was watching this and I noticed that some of the notes she was taking weren't texts, I thought they were texts at first, but rather just her thoughts to herself. I mean, maybe it's healthy to have a diary like that, or maybe there's something mental behind that as well. Maybe that is the need for attention. So just remember that, because that's going to come in later. And I wanted to get that. That's the part that I kind of added before we had the dialogue today. So I apologize for that. So the teen is going to reach out to me soon. The teen. That's weird that she put that those exact words, like the teen. She doesn't put a name to him, so she's maybe protecting him. The teen.
Or it doesn't even mean anything to her. He's just like another.
Yeah, there's a distance to that, right?
Yeah, there's a distance.
I have to agree with you on that, because obviously she probably wouldn't want people to see that anyway. So when she says the teen, maybe because of the emotion that she's in the moment, the teen is a way of protecting herself by not putting a label on, not putting my man on it, not putting his name, because that could be a label of ownership, a label of connection. So what does she do? In her frustration, she puts the teen down, and that is a separation. Yeah, that was good. All right, 5 months after marriage, still writing. Okay, so this is after marriage now. So she got married in June, so we're somewhere in November now. We will connect soon in a positive way. Remember, you're going through the summer now. And we will be in each other's lives forever. So the memoir evidence, her phone contained detailed diary entries framing the abuse as a relationship. And then she's like, this is where I think there's mental health, and we'll get to it. I let a 16-year-old manipulate me. So mind you guys, these are in her private notes. So is it possible, and this is a question for later on, is it possible that instead of her seeing herself, I have a thought here. Is it possible that instead of seeing herself as a predator, she'd rather see herself as a victim? All right, so if you could, I got a lot for you to remember, but that thought just came to me. All right. You ruined us. I warned you. We should never have started dating. Now, guys, these are in her memoirs. And then the complete role reverse. Okay, here it is. Accused a child of gaslighting her. So now you got a 28-year-old woman saying that the 14, 15-year-old kid is the one that manipulated her. So even on her wedding day, Christina was still writing about this 15-year-old. From a mental health perspective, what does that kind of obsession and fixation tell us about the psychology of someone like her?
Well, it just, to me, it's case in point for this histrionic personality disorder. And what you'll see with these predators, though, is at some point, they're the victim. Everything is happening to them, and they take no responsibility. And that's very concerning.
You know, but let me ask you a question, Denise. And guys, I'm not minimizing, but we do like to explore multiple angles here. Oh, actually, it's going to be in the next section. Never mind. It's in the next. The question I want to ask you is in the next section.
Okay.
In the Formella case, what do her writings and texts suggest about her state of mind and justification for the alleged abuse? So, mind you, she's the predator, but now she's writing in her memoir that she's being gaslighted by him, that he's playing her. I mean, what does those justifications say about her mental state? I mean, is there something not correct there?
Correct. Exactly. There's something not correct. This is a personality disorder that all of a sudden she's the victim. This is something that's happening to her. You know, I would be really curious to know, what the husband thinks, because this can't be her first incident of being really bizarre. I mean, they're at their wedding and they're waiting for her to walk down the aisle, and she's in there journaling or whatever she's doing. I mean, this is also very narcissistic. This can't be her first incident.
I'm going to ask a question that's a little bit controversial, but I just want to ask it. Let's say I was a defense lawyer. Because of his age, though, it looks like he's controlling it. But that has to be an impossibility because of her age, right?
What, you talking about the 14-year-old?
Well, it looks like the way now remember, these memoirs are not meant to, the reason why this is great insight into a female sex offender is it shows you so for us, as I said, I would think it's still going to be some level of control, but how do you gain control? So a male may want to do it more physical. A woman obviously could probably do it more emotionally, more mental wise. But if she's writing these memoirs to herself, this is only to her. She's not texting these to him. These are her privately. So these are her private thoughts. These are admissions to herself. Would you think at one point she gave up a sense of control and is giving this 14 and 15-year-old kid, which may be impossible, but is there a chance that he control or somehow or another, is he controlling or does she see him in control? Or
it's her perception, it's her delusion and her perception that all of a sudden, he's doing this to her. He's causing her all this misery. So this is the classic delusion.
Right. So it's not that
he's doing it. It's that she perceives him as doing it.
Right. And also, so can I ask a question? His young age, 14, 15, whatever it is, her being 28, 29, there's no way we should ever be able to see a 14 or 15-year-old have that much control over a 28-year-old adult.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So that's what we're trying to get. Okay. Yeah. But I kind of feel here that she is in her own mind, saying that he's in control,
putting the blame on him.
Yeah, I like how you're saying that. So putting the blame on him, but yet she's not saying it to him.
No, and not only is she not saying it to him, but she's referring to him as the teen. It's so bizarre. I mean, and again, this is what personality disorders do. Personality disorders is when the personality does, it's sort of when we're in developmental years, it sort of becomes deformed or abnormal. And so then the thinking is just not logical or rational. And that's a personality disorder.
Right. So if the blame, like if this was a text to him, and guys, by the way, this is just exploring the dialogue. If this was a text to him, it would be blamed for some effort of guilt. But when she's doing it to herself, it's something that would be self-soothing, in my mind. And then she's actually trying to make it look like that the end of the relationship isn't her fault. So I actually think in the back of her mind, she may have thought she had real feelings for him.
Yeah.
Is that possible?
Could be. Hard to say. I mean, the dialogue is so irrational that it's hard to say what she was trying to make sense of. In her mind, it made complete sense.
Could someone that's histrionic develop? Is it because maybe they crave attention?
Yes.
And so much that it's not that they have a feeling for the individual, but they like the attention they provide.
Yeah, and they can't get enough. So she had the Italian wedding and she had the student, and I imagine she used her sexuality to get attention anytime she could in restaurants, and she's obviously very flashy and she used that. But the problem is no matter how much attention they get, they're never fulfilled, which is why they have to keep getting more attention. Right.
So the moment the attention is taken away, and then on top of that, given to someone else, they're fighting for the attention, but they're not going to admit that they're fighting, not even to themselves.
Correct.
What they're going to think is, how could you do this to me? You know what it is? And even though it's about the attention, very superficial, in their mind, it's an emotional connection when deep down inside, it's not.
Yeah. And she feels betrayed. So she feels betrayed because she wants all the attention, and now he's giving the attention to somebody else. So now it's, you've betrayed me.
So you love the attention the person gives, but not so much the person.
Correct.
I mean, think about it. They have this relationship. She's trying to probably isolate him like all predators do. And the moment there's a break from each other, he goes one way, and she's shocked that I guess her influence didn't last the moment he broke free for a little bit.
Yeah. But he's 14. So,
he's 14, 15 years old. Right. Yeah. So in the Formella case, what do her writings and tests suggest about her state of mind and justification for the alleged abuse? I know we kind of touched on that.
Yeah. That she's mentally ill.
Right. So I'm going to explore that later on. I have an avenue on that I wanted to run by you.
Okay.
Okay. So I want to go to immaturity now. So so I know you're busy, but as I was watching some of the videos, I said, man, when she starts crying in the car and all this other stuff, I saw entitlement. I did see some level of entitlement with her. But then I was like, man, she's a bit immature. And I'm wondering if maybe, still not an excuse, guys, but bear with me. Maybe she's very immature because you see it with a lot of pedophiles and they're attracted to the same level of maturity. So if she's 28 years old, but she's very immature, she may not be attracted to other adults. She could be attracted to kids that are younger because they're on the same maturity level. And it's not saying it's right or wrong, just a thought, because I have seen it. I've seen that a lot of these pedophiles are very interested in a lot of things that little kids do. You know, a lot of things that little kids want to play, and they kind of have that same maturity level. So Christina's text reads like those of a jealous high school girlfriend, breakups, accusations of cheating, demands for attention. Her immaturity wasn't harmless. It was weaponized to blur boundaries. By acting like a peer rather than an authority figure, she disarmed the victim's natural defenses. And I think that's true. You see that in the text. But the reason why I thought that was a mental health concern was only, that she really was immature, was because you also see it in the memoirs. Like, it would be unique if the memoirs were different than the actual text. And they're not. They're very much the same.
Yep.
So that made the relationship, I'm assuming, feel a little bit mutual instead of exploitive because, you know, I can't believe you're doing this to me, blah, blah, blah. I mean, maybe it does make it look like they're in a real relationship and that she's making the effort to try to make it work. And technically, in his mind, you know, it's like, hey, I'm moving on. I'm over here. And, you know, you keep pulling me back. And she doesn't want to accept that because, as I said, maybe it is the attention. Who did you choose over me? Now, when you look at Christina's memoirs, Denise, and you look at her entries, the breakup drama, jealous rants, and we'll be together forever fantasies, they read more like a high school diary than a 30-year-old teacher. So from a counseling perspective, how does emotional immaturity like this become part of the grooming process?
Well, she certainly preyed upon somebody that she could converse with on his level. I mean, to read that, you would think that this is another kid in high school. But you know, she got right down to his level, and this is the conversation that she had. Very disturbing.
And obviously, when we say grooming is an intentional act, or do you think that she's just immature?
No, I think it's an intentional act.
Okay. Yeah, because you don't see it across other areas either. Because when she got arrested and stuff, I mean, actually, she was. You know, she was compliant, didn't act like a kid.
She asked good questions. Like, I'm not really sure why I'm coming in. Is it okay if I turn the engine off? Can my husband come? I mean, so she stayed pretty much asking logical questions. She acted 28, but boy, when she got in that relationship with him, she got right down to his level, if you will, maturity wise, and had this exchange that, you know, was a little bit more age appropriate for him rather than for her.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to see that interaction where she drops down as opposed to bringing him up. So you're right. I agree. She probably went down to his level. And then Christina framed herself as the scorned girlfriend, even saying, let a 16-year-old manipulate me. How does that kind of role reversal affect both the victim's perception of the abuse and society's willingness to recognize it as predatory behavior? Because this is where I get conflicted, Denise, because it's hard for me, and I know she is, but when you read that, and you read that in the memoir, so that's her speaking to herself, if you remove the age is paramount here, obviously. But again, I just, in curiosity here, she does paint herself as a victim. And therefore, I think at that point, you know, does she even see herself as a predator against, hey, I know you're going through this, but you know that the kid was still 16.
Yeah. And certainly in the Department of Corrections, you see that all the time. You know, it's you know, they typically paint themselves as the victim and don't take responsibility for things that they do. That's classic.
Yeah, that's Corrections 101.
Absolutely.
So we have a few more things if you don't mind. Got a lot here to discuss here. Okay, so then the next part I have is the society double standards. I wanted to get to that. Where do we're having such a good dialogue. I'm forgetting to put the, that's all right. So too pretty to be a predator. Compared to Deborah LaFave case, which we talked about. She avoided prison through plea deals. Media focused on her appearance. We talked about that. That's the girl here before.
Mm-hmm.
Female offenders often receive lighter sentences, especially with male victims. Language matters. Cases described as affairs or relationships rather than abuse. And I noticed that maybe not so much now. Now they're starting to kind of say sexual abuse. I hear it all the time with Christina Formella. But prior, if you look at some of the older cases, they do say female teacher has an affair with student. Why'd you say affair? Well, because she's married. But she's that's irrelevant. She's having sex with the student. So I thought that was true. And they did say relationship because that's still brought here. That still said here that she had a relationship with this student. So it does become a bit confusing because it softens the image of the offense, where technically, if it was a male, they sexually abused this innocent child. Right. Where here they use relationship and affairs. I thought that was interesting. And male victims may be told they were lucky instead of traumatized. That's true and that's sad, but that's true. Yes. When I showed a picture of her, everybody was quick to say how lucky that boy was. But if it was a set of roles were reversed. So Denise, do you think society and the justice system treat female offenders differently than male offenders? And if so, what does that mean for victims and accountability?
I think they do, but yet the damage is the same. I mean, this boy really has, one of the things when we have a very early sexual encounter like this is they become very hypersexual and they become very promiscuous. I mean, he's going to, and he's also probably has a lot of emotional trauma from this. So, I mean, I agree. I think that female offenders get a much lighter sentence. And as you mentioned, even the language, they had a relationship. It's not she molested him or something like that. I mean, the language is a lot softer. And I think that it should be equal.
Hey, so for a young boy like him, if he decides to have relationships with a girl his age, would he be some extent maybe pushing for more because he's already reached that level of satisfaction with an older woman?
Yeah, and they seem to have had a lot of encounters together, and he's 14. I mean, that's fairly young for an adolescent, you know.
And you know what's sad about this though too? I know it may sound crazy, but there is something beautiful when you do fall in love and you grow into the awkwardness of making love. Where now I'm a young kid and now I've been coached by an older woman.
Yeah.
So I know this may sound stupid, but you know, part of the clumsiness of making love, there's innocence in there, and then to take that away from somebody, I think that's because I'll guarantee you she coached him.
Yeah, and it's sex; it's not intimacy.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point. So a kid at 14 or 15 is not going to know the difference of that, to be honest with you, right?
Correct.
But if she was getting pure sexual gratification from him, she would use the word intimacy.
I'm sure she did.
Because in one of the texts, he even says the word passionate. When technically it could just be purely predator, sexual.
Yeah.
When society downplays cases like this as relationships, how does that shape how victims see themselves and their trauma?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, you know, this is going to leave some scars. Yeah, he's confused. He's been manipulated. He's been manipulated. He's been exploited, and now it's going to go into the news. And I mean, I imagine he's still at that school. I mean, it must be horrific for his parents, and it's just the layers of that this kind of damage does. It just can go ongoing.
And they honest, I think if it's defined by the relationship, it eliminates the age, and therefore they don't see anything wrong. Like trying to tell a 14, 15-year-old kid that having sex with your 28-year-old teacher's wrong, all they're thinking about, well, this feels good and all this other stuff. Plus, she loves me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not wrong. You don't know her like I know her.
Yeah.
I actually, sometimes you get these girls that are 13, 14 fall in love with these older guys. And when the family tries to get involved and say, hey, listen, I get it. But he's 30, you're 15, but he treats me well, Mom. And he loves. What is love?
Yeah, exactly.
You tell me if you know what love is at 15 years old, explain it to me.
Mm-hmm.
But that I'm sure that becomes an issue. But in this case here, it looked like he was, what's funny? It looks like he was already in the breakup process. So when the mother got involved, it was probably not that much pushing to get him to do the right thing because he wanted the relationship to end anyway. But if the relationship was still going strong and he was still in love with her, I wonder if the outcome would have been different.
Well, the mom still looked like she went right to authorities and got this investigated, which good for her.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. But I wonder if you would get less participation from him.
Well, I imagine the whole time he probably resisted. I imagine even if he had moved on, I'm sure he didn't want to come forth to authorities and admit that he had sex with his teacher. And I mean, it's embarrassing, I'm sure.
And you know what's crazy? I've known cases where they wind up the older person winds up getting the rape charge because it wasn't consensual, but the person couldn't consent.
Correct.
So it's just labeled because of the age. But then later on, some years later, they marry the victim.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what a twisted world that is.
Yes.
Does lighter sentences for women reinforce their denial or sense that what they did wasn't that bad?
I think a lighter sentence for women. I think that should be equal because I think a crime is a crime. I don't think that it should be, well, she's a woman, she's a teacher, she's too pretty to go to prison. I don't think that that's an excuse. So
do you think 60 years is too much for her, or that's what she should get after having?
Well, I mean, certainly it's got to go to trial and it's got to play out. I doubt she'll get 60 years, but she should get something. She's
already on home at GPS monitoring.
Yeah.
I wonder if they would do that with a male sex offender.
I was just thinking the same thing.
So I want to go back to the victims real quick. So we said male victims may feel pride mixed with trauma, confused by cultural narratives. And we say cultural, I'm assuming men, hey, good job. You banged that teacher. When we know that's not correct because you wouldn't be saying that to your daughter. I can't imagine myself telling my daughter, hey, good job at 15. You banged your gym teacher.
Yeah.
Long-term effects. So you have intimacy struggles, which you mentioned, trust issues. I'm assuming trust issues could relate not even just to relationships, but women figures in general. Because I'm assuming if you're young and you're having sex with an older woman, I don't know if there's something played out with the fact that this woman also could be the same age as your mother to some extent. Not this case here, but just in general. Distorted relationship template. So that's going to be a foundation for every relationship he has going forward. Who she's more experienced in that. So to her, not a big deal, but to him, this is a foundational relationship.
Yeah.
It's whatever he judges at that point going forward. And then you got guilt and misplaced responsibility. I should have resisted or I participated. So again, you got the guilt of I should have resisted, or you got the responsibility, well, I participate. So again, when it gets exposed that the relationship is wrong, if he at any point enjoyed it, now he's got to, well, maybe I should have resisted if it was this wrong, or hell, I participated in it. And then you got the delayed trauma recognition due to grooming, the grooming's emotional manipulation. So basically, he may not really know how bad this relationship could affect him until years later, correct? Is that what we're getting at there?
Yep. And that just may play out with him physically, believe it or not, because a lot of trauma will eventually sit in the body.
And you know what's sad? Again, I got to go back to this again. We talked about the awkwardness of first taken into lovemaking or whatever, however you want to call it. That may give him trouble with being with girls his age who are going to be a bit more inexperienced.
Maybe
Because his definition of love could be purely sexual, right? I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm okay. I don't think I'm far off with that. So March 20. So the victim's mother. Remember, so you see the car that's in March 22nd of 2025. That's after the victim's mother discovered explicit messages during the phone transfer. The message included, "I love you so much, baby," with teen responding, "I love you so much, mama." Look at that nurturing thing, mama, baby. So the violation extended beyond the direct victim to every student who trusted her classroom as safe. So I want to make sure that's key, guys. She did this with one student. What's not the thing she'll do with another student? So how might a boy victim feel when his abuser is presented as a girlfriend figure instead of a predator?
Oh, that's a tough one to answer. You know, I mean, she's a predator. I mean, unfortunately, she has him convinced that they had a relationship, but that was not a genuine relationship.
So again, the timing mattered too, because he had already broken up with her. But if they were still together, I think he would have had a lot more resistance, and it would have been a bit more confusing, where she would have to probably spend more time because she would have to break up the relationship first, technically, to get him to be more helpful with what the next steps would be.
Yeah. Or she gets married and then he decides to go find somebody his age.
Which made it seem like that's what they were planning. Yeah. That was the goal.
Yeah.
What kind of confusion can it cause when the offender insists and may truly believe that it's love? And I think that we discussed it before. What is their definition of love? That's the first thing I would explore.
Well, it's more of the attention seeking that she's looking for. She's defining it as love, but that's not love.
Now, how would he define love?
Well, he's probably defining love because of sex and the text messages and everything that she's saying to him. He's understanding this as love.
And very superficial, very surface.
Yeah.
And then how damaging is it for victims when abuse happens in a place meant to be safe, like a school?
Yeah, I don't know that it really, I guess it's a little bit more difficult. We see that with just molestation when it happens in the home. I don't know that it matters where it happens. It just matters that it happens. And the hard part when you're groomed is it's meant to be special. And so it gets very confusing. And also usually what they're doing, it feels good. And so that adds another layer of shame and guilt when you finally sort of recognize what you're doing was wrong.
Yeah, as I said, I think me and Ann Salter touched on that too, because that, she said, it gets very confusing, because she even said that sometimes when she dealt with people that were sexually abused, they started questioning their own, well, hold on. So when we talked about her cases, she was talking about priests, and at one point she was talking about priests molesting boys. And there were some boys that were afraid to bring it up because they were aroused.
Yeah, they enjoy it. It's something that I see a lot when I deal with sexual trauma, and they feel very special. They're somebody's special person, and it becomes a bond, but it's an inappropriate bond, which is why they become hypersexual, because the bond is to keep having sex. So they'll meet somebody and they have sex right away because that's what they understand as connection, right? And it's just inappropriate.
Yeah, she said that she would say that it's not your fault, because the thing is it doesn't say anything about what you truly enjoy. Your mind has no control of that at some point. So she basically said that sometimes the guilt comes from the fact that the kid is afraid to say something, because at the end of the day, he enjoyed the process of it.
Correct. Nor do they understand what it is. Cognitively, right. They don't understand at a young age what exactly they're doing, other than that it's a special connection, and that it feels good.
Yeah, and guys, I think if you have someone that you feel that is being abused, I think that is something that you should keep in the back of your mind, because that could be a reason why they don't say anything. She said that was very important. That's a wall too that most people don't know about.
Yeah,
it's not something that they openly admit to. What are the hidden ways trauma from female offenders surfaces later in victims' lives? Kind of touched on that, but
say that one again.
What are the hidden ways trauma from female offenders surfaces later in victim life?
Well, certainly as far as the victim, it can affect his relationships. It can also affect at some point sexual performance. It can affect physical problems such as back pain. Believe it or not, a lot of trauma sits in the lower back. So yeah, it can affect. It's amazing to me with trauma is to understand exactly like what kind of damage it's done. It can actually get all the way down to what the cellular level.
Yeah, and also it could, I don't know if this makes sense, but it could bastardize what they enjoy.
Yeah.
So basically, you get someone that, let's say you get someone that gets abused physically, all of a sudden, let's say in the process of being abused, maybe they enjoyed a moment of it. Next thing you know, they're violent, or next thing you know, they want to be hit. So I'm not saying that that's the case here, but what I'm trying to get at, it's that trauma becomes the foundation of everything later on that things get compared to. And if by chance there were certain things in that relationship that were extreme, then sadly that person may find some level of enjoyment in that really you shouldn't be enjoying.
Yeah, could cause a cycle.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say. That's a better way to say it.
Yeah.
All right, so I have some warning signs and prevention. So for recognizing female predatory behavior, so I got boundary violations disguised as care. So tutoring, leading to personal contact, which happened here. Creating dependency and isolation, positioning as the only trusted adult. That's very important. Isolation matters because they don't want the counter influence. The reality distortion, so deflecting criticism, attacking questioners' motives, playing victim. Everyone's jealous of my looks. Exploiting societal biases, so hiding behind respectability and attractiveness. And then documented delusions, rare but revealing diary entries. This was one of the things that she did that was very rare, but there are a lot of people interested in what she wrote in those little memos. So do female offenders consciously use their role as caregivers to mask predatory behavior, or is it more subtle?
They can. Certainly that gives them an opportunity. Yeah, they'll go into professions where all of a sudden they sort of slip in under the radar. So absolutely.
And is that dependence part of the game?
Yeah. And also the isolation. And I mean, it's very methodical. You know, it's first you have to get some rapport going. Then you've got to sort of establish trust. Then you have to isolate, and then you have to, engage. I mean, it's a very serious process, and they're quite polished at it. That's the scary part.
And you want to hear something funny? There are parts of the notes where I feel that she could have sold something where I could make you better for future relationships. So if you want to start dating girls, maybe I can help you with that. I could show you what women want. And therefore they believe that maybe doing this will help them have better relationships with females their age.
Yeah.
I could picture, because I know male predators sometimes do that too. What advice would you give to families or schools to help victims recognize abuse when it doesn't look like abuse?
Well, certainly there's some warning signs. I mean, the fact that, that she was tutoring and all of that, I mean, some of it you have to be prudent. I mean, you have to, like, I would be wondering, like, why my son was going to school really early, regularly, especially willingly, because usually when kids go for tutoring, they go kicking and screaming. I mean, you've got to notice like little subtleties. And probably the parents, now that they're looking back, they probably see things more clearly.
Right now, I had two added segments for this, but let me wrap this part up. So again, so Christina right now is facing 55 felony charges. They're saying possibly 60 years, but again, we don't know about that. But this is her photo she took in the jail, rather plain there. She's out on bail right now with GPS monitoring, no contact with minors. She doesn't work at the school no more. She has to be 5,000 feet from the victim. Maybe that could be why she's selling the house. Pleaded not guilty despite overwhelming evidence. I think they're going to plead not guilty and maybe try some mental health issue, which we'll get to very shortly. Case forces recognition that predators hide behind the most respectable facades, teacher, tutor, coach.
Mhm.
The ripple effect we touched on, destroy trust within an entire school community. Colleagues question their own judgment. Because remember, there's probably teachers there wondering, how do we not see this? Students lost sense of classroom safety to some extent, maybe. Reinforces need for vigilance regardless of gender stereotypes. From a counseling perspective, Denise, how important is it to address an offender's own trauma when treating or studying their behavior?
What do you mean their own trauma?
Well, as we get to the mental health concern, and again, you're looking to maybe, let's say she goes to jail, prison, and now they got to rehabilitate her concern, so she doesn't, or they try to rehabilitate so she doesn't go back and do this again. Let's say they give her a lighter sentence, or let's say, you know what, you got to take some level of programming. How important would be at that point to understand who she is? Why does she suffer, if that's the case, from histrionic or, you know, whatever it is? How important is it to understand her and her history?
Well, the thing with these personality disorders is they can't be rehabilitated. And you think about any sort of disability, I mean, you're not going to cure it, but what you try to do is manage the symptoms. I mean, she's going to be, you know, she's going to be limited quite a bit because she's not going to be able to be around children, you know, and she's got a history. Unfortunately, there's not much you can do to cure what she's doing. What she's doing is manifesting her personality disorder, which she's had. I mean, that sort of started in childhood, diagnosed at 18, and, you know, through the 10 years, she sort of did everything that she had to do, and then she acted on it.
Yeah, and by the way, as I said, even with predators, with males, I mean, I wouldn't trust them with the kids. I mean, they go through the rehabilitation, but at the end of the day, all you can do is try to control the impulse. But most of the time, you never know what will excite them in the moment. Christina Formella wasn't a victim of her beauty. She weaponized it. Her memoir proves premeditation, her text prove intent, and her delusion proves sophistication. Behind the headlines is a real teenager whose life was forever changed by an adult who was supposed to protect him. Recognizing these patterns isn't just true crime analysis, it's essential knowledge for protecting children from predators who hide behind respectability. Now, the second part of the dialogue, which is a little bit of surprise for you, but you're always good on your feet, so I don't mind surprising you, was something, as I said, I went out, listened to the stuff in the car, went into Chick-fil-A, and of course the criminal defense will try to push mental health concerns. That's fine. That's their job. That's what they're supposed to do. But it gave me a chance to say, well, you know what, guys, after we had this, you know where we stand. She's a predator. I'm putting it out there. She is a predator. Denise said she is a predator. But let's be fair. I mean, she still has to be found guilty. So there is a presumption that, you know, she is innocent. But, you know, not guilty also could mean, well, yeah, I had sex, but I really wasn't in the mental capacity. So let's play these different routes real quick. So when I saw her crying in the car, as I mentioned earlier, this is crazy because usually if it was a male, I could give two shits, to be honest with you. And I'm admitting my own bias. So I'm glad we had this show. But when I saw her, I saw a young girl. I kind of pictured, crazy enough, maybe a girl my daughter's age crying through the same thing, like what the hell went wrong? And then I said, okay, so now we may have another angle here because the lawyer said mental health. So I want to be fair in our discussions, and I think that's good. So on the surface, was she crying because of consequences? Was she crying because of shame? Or was she crying because the relationship is fully over now? That's it. They're done. And the reason why I said, well, maybe this is somewhat credible if I was going to push the mental health thing is because of the memoirs. That wasn't outward manipulation. That was how she viewed herself in the situation she was in. And now if you take that into a context, if I was a defense lawyer, I want those private notes. I want those memoirs. And then that may give me an argument. Even if it's histrionic, whatever it is, in her mind, it could still be love. I would play so many angles out here. So I said, you know what? I got Denise on. Let's explore this. So I said, could she have been really in love? So I said, so on the surface, yes, in her own mind, she believed maybe she was in love. Maybe. But remember, love for her is different than we view love. So granted, her love is a little bit more superficial, a little bit more attention setting. So when I say she believes in love, it's not in the same way we process it. So her diary entries read like the notes of a heartbroken teenager, jealous rants, fantasies of being together forever, blaming him for cheating, and even timing their breakups around milestones like her wedding or the graduation. I think those are, by the way, I want to mention, this is very important to me. I thought about this. The milestones would have been things that in her mind would have had to end the relationship anyway. You know what I mean? So it gave her comfort in knowing that, well, he graduates. He's no longer being in school. So you know what? I'm not going to be around him at that point. So I'm not going to be compelled to chase after him. Or the wedding. I'm going to be married. You know what I mean? Which I think the marriage was the weaker of the two. I think the graduation would be out of sight, out of mind. He left the school. He's no longer part of the school. Out of sight, out of mind. The wedding was a milestone, but it was a milestone for her. That's why when they were doing the breakup, the milestone didn't have that much weight to it, because it wasn't out of sight, out of mind by stuff that she could that was in her. It was in her control to try to fight and get that relationship back. But
well, she already had the wedding.
She already had the wedding.
She already mastered that. She hadn't quite mastered him.
Right. So when I read the notes, I said, okay, so listen, like in my head, listen to this. Graduation, he's out of school, out of sight, out of mind. That to me, if she was really in love with him in a superficial sense or whatever it is, whatever, let's just play this perspective out. We know the age, but just hear me out. That's for the audience. That's not to you, Denise. That's just to the audience. I don't want them thinking I'm just, you know how we play. The graduation's out of her control. He's out. He's no longer in the school. I'm not going to have to see him. She would be able to accept that. But when it became the wedding, she couldn't accept it because it wasn't a definitive end. And not like the graduation would have been. So I think that matters. But she didn't write as if she were committing crime. She wrote as if she were in a romance novel. So, but clinically and legally, that's not love. It's distorted attachment mixed with narcissism. Now, I got 2 questions for you, but I want to come up with 4 reasons why she may think she's in love. Okay, so you haven't been given this yet. All right. So, and again, I think it again, it's not to forgive what she's done, just a perspective. So I got the delusion versus love. Real love respects boundaries, maturity, and the other person's well-being. Christina erased the developmental gap and redefined exploitation as a relationship. This isn't love. It's grooming disguised as romance. That's the whole context of our dialogue. Then you got the control masquerading as care. Many predators tell themselves and others they were in love as a way to rationalize their behavior. For Christina, her obsession and possessiveness, not genuine partnership, drove her actions. I watch Chris Hansen all the time, and when he catches these predators, they swear to God they're helping the individual. They swear to God they're doing something that will help the individual. And then this is my favorite one, and we touched on it earlier, but this is my favorite one, projection. By claiming she was the one manipulated or heartbroken, she flipped roles and let her believe she wasn't a predator, but rather a victim of teen betrayal. And then the last one I got is narcissistic infatuation. More than love, Christina was in love with her own fantasy, an idolized image of herself as the special girlfriend who defied rules. The boy became a mirror for her immaturity, not an equal partner. So she likely felt she was in love, but in reality, it was delusional obsession fueled by immaturity, control, and self-centered fantasy. I got 2 questions for you.
Okay.
So Christina's diary entries read like those of a jealous teenage girlfriend. She talks about cheating, breakups, and being together forever. Do you think offenders like Christina genuinely believe they're in love, or is that just a delusion they create to rationalize their abuse?
Yeah, exactly. It's a delusion that they create. You have to remember that they use their sexuality to get as much attention as they possibly can. And when they fear that they're losing that attention, that's when they start to scramble. And then they become the victim. And then they say, yeah, we were in love and we had a relationship. And this delusion is sort of goes all around the fact that they crave attention. They crave sexual attention. They crave emotional attention. And yet they're emotionally very shallow across the board.
So now, if you were to, now let's say they go to jail, prison, whatever, you work on rehabilitation, can you correct that mindset?
No.
They can play the game as they believe it,
correct.
but they technically it can't be corrected, right?
Correct. So remember, the personality in childhood never forms appropriately. So the thinking is not rational. And so what they look for, because the personality hasn't formed appropriately, they look for conditional energies, things that they need from the environment that make them feel good. So it's power, it's control, it's sex, it's money, it's whatever it is. But as much as they may get, it's never enough, because fulfillment comes from within, not from these things. But because the personality is not normal, this is what they feel like they need so that they feel good, but they can't get enough.
But right. So, and I agree with you. I think these are people that you cannot change, but it is very interesting when they do come to your table and you have to work with them to understand the cause of it, right? To know if it is something that could be changed or not, like the roots of it, right?
If it's a personality disorder, it cannot be changed.
It cannot be changed.
And
So
now-
what if it's not a personality order, but it still comes out in behaviors like this? Could it be anything else?
No, because
Okay.
people that just have general like anxiety or whatever, they're not doing these, irrational criminal acts. I mean, people have, different, struggles, depression and so forth, but not to the point where they're sort of taking it beyond what's appropriate. The personality disorder is what creates this delusional thinking of, I'm going to get power by doing this, and and then it's interesting because they typically all of a sudden will flip it. So they become the victim and the other person's responsible. So
Right,
it's
so-
all very typical.
So it's the heightened level of self, the victimization of others, the blaming, the shifting, or the blame shifting, the guilt, all that stuff partnered together shows you that you have some, okay, all right.
Some personality disorder. Yeah.
And then how can we explain to the public that what looks like love in these cases is really manipulation and control? And why is it so important to draw that line clearly when we talk about predators who claim to have feelings for their victims, and more so with female sex offenders?
Yeah. And this is a conversation that I have probably 3 or 4 times a week with clients, where they don't realize that they're being manipulated. And they go, oh, but he's nice, or I feel bad if I tell him no. And I go, okay, well, this is manipulation. This is something that many people struggle with, where they don't recognize the motive of the person that wants them to do something. Like, because people do whatever they do because something's in it for them. And you've got to decide what that is before you just, try to be nice and try to, acquiesce to whatever they want. And then you're going to get yourself in trouble.
Yeah, and I like, this is so spot on, because it's good for someone from a mental health background to say this, because I think when you work in the system, sometimes people get played, including mental health counselors, because they want to go there and they want to save someone. But it's good to know that there are certain things that you can't save, but you will try your best to help them manage. But at the end of the day, just remember, they haven't changed. They're still who they are.
Correct.
And that doesn't, it's just more for recognizing that, as opposed to giving them an excuse. I want people to realize that. When the defense lawyer put up the challenges of mental health concerns, I noted a few things I wanted to put, but I have a little caveat at the end. So I said, okay, so let's say she does have mental health concerns. What we see, Denise, you mentioned, so you know what? Let's revisit that real quick. Can you say that again? I forgot to put that one in here. So explain histrionic again that you see in her, and why do you see it?
Histrionic is a personality disorder. So this is actually a diagnosis that we have as therapists, but you have to meet criteria. I just can't go, oh, she seems like she has histrionic personality disorder. So I actually wrote them down. It's attention-seeking behavior. So that we would say definitely sexualized. People pick on me because I'm so beautiful. I mean, that's just really obviously very sexual. Rapid shifting and shallow expression of emotions. We saw that in her notes. We saw that in her diaries. Considers relationships to be more intimate than they actually are. So, those criteria right there, I could clearly give a diagnosis of histrionic personality disorder.
All right, and then, if you think about it, she said that thing about her being pretty. She's having sex with the individual. She doesn't want to be second to no one. That's attention. So I definitely believe that she has multiple things that fit in that.
Yep.
And then I remember on the phone we were discussing, you mentioned narcissistic, so I put that in.
Mhm.
I had levels of grandiosity. She believed her looks gave her immunity from consequences. Everyone comes after me because I'm good looking. She lacks of empathy. Her memoir shows little concern for the boy's age or well-being, only for her own feelings of betrayal. And then the victim mentality, she reframed herself as heartbroken partner manipulated by a teenager. I also thought I wanted to play out on immature thinking. So I put borderline or immature thinking. Not that it's an excuse, guys, but bear with me, just in case it's ever played out by defense. You never know where these cases go. I won't be shocked if she doesn't see a day in jail, though, to be honest with you, or prison. Emotional, I wouldn't be. They already gave her the GPS monitoring.
Yeah.
So you have the emotional instability, jealous rages, explosive texts about cheating, cycling between idolizing and devaluing the victim, fear of abandonment, manifestation notes about being in each other's lives forever, reveal desperation to avoid being left, because there's parts in her memoir where she basically talks about, we'll connect again. We'll do it again.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I kind of meant before, is that if it was to end, because she says, I screenshotted all the times I wanted to break up, and that would have gave her control. But then he went ahead and he broke up with me. She has no control. And that falls into what you mentioned with narcissism, histrionic, predators in general.
Yeah. Plus, then he found somebody else. And so that created, for the attention-seeking behavior, that's not going to work.
And then again, with the immaturity, she communicated like a peer rather than an adult, reflecting stunting development. I put cognitive distortion. So the projection, we talked about accusing her victim of gaslighting her when she was the one manipulating.
It's all delusional.
Delusional bonding, writing diary entries about dating and breakups with the child. And then the fantasy world, balancing a marriage, a career, and a secret teenage relationship, compartmentalizing into multiple realities. And then here's the important distinction, I think, that the context of our dialogue is. Mental illness does not equal excuse. Even if Christina has narcissistic or borderline traits or some other psychological disorder, it doesn't erase the fact that she calculatedly groomed and abused a child. Mental health concerns may explain her distorted thinking, but they don't justify her predatory actions. So in short, Christina's writings and behavior strongly suggest underlying narcissistic and possibly borderline type personality issues, along with emotional immaturity, but those concerns only add context. They don't lessen the seriousness of her predatory conduct.
Correct.
This was a great dialogue, Denise. Well, before we go into your closing, anything in response to what I just read there?
But when you were saying narcissistic borderline, the only thing that shifts it to histrionic is the sexual part. Because the borderlines are not usually as sexual, and the narcissism are usually just, power control. It's just, again, when you get into these personality disorders, there's certain things that make one more appropriate versus another.
Yeah. And you know what? I wish I would have did. I forgot that you told me the history. I forgot to put it in there.
It's okay.
I should have. Yeah, but you did tell me that even before we had the dialogue. And then you said it at the beginning of this dialogue.
Well, and I described it when I was talking about it. So I basically explained the criteria. So again, to get these diagnoses that we give psychologically, you have to meet criteria. So it's a science. It's not just, this seems, or she seems like she does that. There's certain criteria that we're looking for that will warrant the diagnosis.
And is the age 18 or over for most diagnosis?
In order for a personality disorder, they have to be 18 or older.
And prior to that, is it still that we talked about conduct or something?
Conduct disorder, ODD, that defiant disorder. I mean, there's things that we put in there because we can't quite, diagnose a personality disorder until 18. Okay.
Hey, Denise, anything you'd like to say in closing? Great dialogue again.
No. Thank you for having me. Please come visit me at deniseschonwald.com. I have lots of books. I'd be happy to talk to you.
Hey, I saw that you had an article you were sharing.
Oh, yeah. I do different articles in magazines and so forth. So that's also on Facebook if people want to follow me on Denise Schonwald, LLC.
Yeah, it's a great read, guys. I shared it on my profile page on Facebook. But guys, if you guys get a chance, let me put myself back in, please email her, contact her. I mean, yeah, everybody's emailing me, but you guys could also email her because we've been doing some shows together, and I think eventually you're crossing into your own podcast as well, right?
Denise Schonwald, or it's Denise at DeniseSchonwald.com.
Yeah, and then I would love, I'll figure out what comes up next, but I'm going to be hitting you up probably again tomorrow. We'll figure it out.
It's great.
I like to see, because you're good for almost any dialogue we have. So I find myself very drawn to you.
Yeah.
And then I'm also going to have, maybe I would love to have me, you, and I think Pangaro on. So we'll get the legal and mental health. But I just got to figure out what would be a good case for that. Because even the latest update in the Manuel Harrow case, it's not really anything. They're going back to court in October. That was just to get an idea of the evidence. So
Okay.
We still got time for that. So as always, guys, the show is Tear Talk. Please subscribe. Share the channel out, guys. Let's grow. And as always, guys, stay safe.